Are you ready to kick off the new year on the right financial foot? This may be the year that you want to talk to a financial advisor. And today we're sharing the 5 questions we get asked most often so you can be assured you'll get the answers you're looking for. Stick around. Welcome back to the Financial Symmetry Show. Chad Smith with Mike Eklund here again. We're kicking off a new year, right? That's an exciting time in our business because at the beginning of every year, we get an influx of new people contacting us about our services and how we can help. If you're looking to start this year on a different financial foot, you're going to understand how this process would work with a financial advisor and to make you feel comfortable because it can be overwhelming. It can make you nervous. And some of these questions that we hear, we like to walk through so that you feel comfortable. But a lot of these conversations, Mike, right? They start with the word fiduciary. And that is for most people how they find us. They will mention that word. Either they find it in an internet search or they've talked to someone they know. And luckily that word has gotten more publicity over the years because what that really means is that the advisor or the financial advisor is called to put your best interest first in the way that they're making recommendations.
No, I mean, I agree completely. I think if you are in the market or looking for a financial advisor, one of the first questions you should ask is, are they a fiduciary? And as Chad mentioned, it is very important that they are putting your interest first and not their own interest instead. Unfortunately, there are too many bad actors in our industry that focus on themselves before the best interest of the client. And so obviously at Financial Symmetry, as fiduciaries, our clients are first, and that's kind of drives a lot of advice and approaches we use with our clients.
Yeah, and that comes down to the incentive structure, right? And trying to control the conflicts of interest that can be there. And much of that conversation has been on the way advisors are paid, but we're going to get into some of that today. So if you can stick with us through these 5 questions, you might leave a little wiser in your search for a financial advisor. So the first question that we hear most always is, how often do you review my situation? And that's what it should be, right? Because that's what a financial advisor is out there to do for you. So let's walk through a little bit of that, of how we do it for our clients, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's a great question because a lot of people are worried that, hey, we hand off our life savings to you and then we never hear from you again. And that's, the opposite of the approach that Financial Symmetry takes. We are comprehensive financial planners, and that's probably an overused word, but what it really means is we're not only focused on your investments, but also looking at your tax, estate, spending, your entire financial life. But the reality is everyone's situation is different. So how often we're discussing and talking and reviewing is depending upon your specific situation. Some could be more often or less often, depending on what is going on in your life at that point. But in our firm, how it typically works is every quarter, we're at least focusing on one area in particular. And that area could be maybe in the fall, which we've just wrapping up here is tax planning. So what can you do by the end of the year to help kind of maximize your tax situation? Estate situation, do you have your beneficiary set up correctly? Or do you need trusts or do you need just estate documents? And that's typically done, in another quarter during the year. In addition, updating that financial plan that like I say, like a flight plan or your roadmap to success, updating it every year to make sure that, you don't need to make any course corrections, that everything is on track. And then finally, obviously people focus on a lot is the portfolio, and that portfolio, we're looking at that. Our system is checking it every day, but we might not be reaching out to you about it, once or twice a year because there might be nothing to do, but we are regularly reviewing it on making sure there's no changes need to be made. So that is kind of the approach there. I mean, but the other thing is, we have a regular process that we go through, but, there's also as requested too. So we also have meetings during the year with clients that will have more of a deep dive, or if other things come up that are more urgent questions, those will be focused on during that time. So it depends, I guess, but yes, we are regularly reviewing.
Yes. And then of course you have access to Client Center, right? That's a proprietary online portal that we built that gives you a preview of a lot of different areas of your life. And then you can drill down in those areas to see updates throughout the year of what's going on. So a little unique feature there that we, just another way we try to keep you updated throughout the year if you're wanting to dig in at any point during the year. Question two, we are moving to, and again, another focus that people love to talk about early on because they want to understand what it's going to cost them. So when and how is your fee charged?
Wait, Joe, we're not free? I thought we charge for our services. No, I think this is, yes, I agree. This is probably the second most common question because people are like, okay, well, I know I need the help. I'm not an expert in this. I need to hire someone, but how much is this going to cost me? Because there, unfortunately, is a lot of, the advisors are not fiduciaries that have conflict of interest tend to hide their fees, where us as fiduciaries, financial symmetry, we're much more open in terms of what our fees are. And so in most cases for our ongoing clients, our continuous service or wealth management clients, that fee is charged on a quarterly basis. And as Chad mentioned, that information is available on the website. There is an invoice tab where you can look under Client Center and see I think the last 6 or 8 invoices and how exactly that was calculated. And that's for our clients is based on percentage of assets and the balance of that portfolio at the end of the quarter. So that's kind of the option number one. And then option number two is for our hourly clients, the one we just do a one-time plan for. That is based on the plan and the specific cost for that plan. It is a different service. It's just more of like a contract or project based, but that one is provided at the end of the plan work.
Yeah, and I'd point out that's for the people that are dead set on doing things themselves and that we can do it themselves, right? Because the hardest part of a financial plan is monitoring and implementation. And many times that is why people are seeking a financial advisor in the first place, because they don't have the time and maybe the interest or just the general knowledge. I've heard a lot of people that contact us say, I have expertise in my area of work. I know how to do that. I'm not as interested in having expertise on the financial side of things. Or I feel like I'm missing something because I read a lot and I can't make decisions based on what I read on, the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, or so on. So yeah, that's summing up the fee area, and transparency, I would add, is the most important thing there, right? We throw it all up on our website. You can see what the charges are and the breakdowns of the levels and the areas. And, that just makes it clear that people can make a decision before finding us and see that, right?
Yeah. And I'd say the vast majority of folks end up using that ongoing relationship, also called our wealth management service, just because of that. As Chad mentioned, they don't have the time, interest, or knowledge to do a good job on their own. So some call it a fee. I like to call it as an investment. It's an investment in your future, similar to other investments you make. Because what the other fee is the cost if you do it on your own, you make poor decisions. There's also, you're not paying a direct fee, but there is an indirect cost to that as well. So, but it is, as Chad mentioned, very transparent and available for folks to look at.
Yeah, because the reality is, we've talked about this on other episodes. There's a few inflection points in your life when it comes to either your portfolio or big mistakes on the estate side of things, tax planning maneuvers each year that can save you large dollar amounts, right? Or add large dollar amounts to your portfolio. So if you're not paying attention at those times, you can miss out, and you don't know always when those times are going to present themselves. So that's where having that attention really makes a major difference. And if nothing else, it's nice to have a reassurance that things are moving in the right direction. So that leads us to our next question on that reassurance, right? What people are looking for. Many times they'll say, okay, I've worked with somebody for years, but I don't hear from them anymore because they've moved on, right? They've taken on too many clients. So they're asking, how often do we meet?
Yeah. And I think, and a lot has changed, obviously, with this over the last couple of years with COVID and kind of the way things have adjusted. I think the first thing is how you define meet. So nowadays historically it was you actually come to our office, we sit around a conference table, look at a screen, and that was, considered a meeting. Nowadays, between phone calls, virtual meetings, in person, whatever you want to, podcast like we are now, there is a lot more, discussions that are going on throughout the year. So there isn't really the kind of the typical, like you have to meet at this certain time. But I would say on average, most of our clients meet with their advisor at least one time a year. And that would be kind of more of a checkup. Kind of, you maybe have a physical once a year with your doctor. You're having you're getting those quarterly checkups from us, which we're focusing on different areas of your life. At least once a year, we're maybe having a phone call or video or sit down and walking through kind of here's where you're at, here's what the plan looks like, here's how your spending is doing, how's the portfolio, taxes, kind of getting a look at your entire situation. Now I say that because that's on average, because I have a client this last year, as Chad mentioned, Inflection Point, that sold a business, and we probably met 12 times. We probably emailed every other week. There's just a lot more going on. And then I had other clients where they didn't have much going on at all, and there was maybe just email dialogue. There was no phone calls or video. So it's really up to the client. They can schedule meetings whenever they want to, but it's also the complexity of their situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that leads us really to the next question, because I think this gives people comfort when we talk about this one. And it can get the most interesting because there's a lot of variation in scenarios that pop up. It's not just the 4 quarterly focuses, right? And this question is, can I just contact you if I have questions?
Absolutely. That's why we're here. We take a lot of focus as a business to respond to client inquiries on a timely basis. So when I say timely, it's not like we'll get back to you next month. Timely within, hopefully within a day or two at the latest. We might not know the answer, but at least that we're working on it. But we'd rather you ask questions than do something and then come back and say, well, I just did this. And we find well, you probably should not, or have you considered this or that? So I prefer questions versus not, because that means you're engaged, and also we're here to assist you.
Yeah, I mean, many times I'll get a complex question about a certain issue, and I'll say, well, when do you need an answer, right? And that gives us some time potentially to make sure we're considering all the alternatives and the risks. I think because it'd be nice if it was only opportunities on these questions, but many times there's risks involved. And if you dig into some of the scenarios, like Mike said, the business owner, right? Many of these we're developing retirement income strategies for people, right? And they're dealing with retirement. And then there's other tax planning considerations that you're dealing with there. Because what we've seen over the last few years, the retirement date is not the retirement date. Many times there's a structure that you're working a little bit after that, right? There's a consulting arrangement for some, you're training your next person to come along. You're trying to work out Medicare situations, the bridge of health insurance as you're rolling through there. You might be changing homes. There's divorces, unfortunately, that happen throughout the year. Stock decisions with retirement. A lot of times you might have stock bonuses. Your company might be getting acquired, and that's where you're taking this early retirement package. We've done some episodes on that. During those conversations, the LTC, the long-term care insurance conversation comes up. The question of, should I get it? Should I not? How do I best deal with that? So, at the end of the year, I think what Mike mentioned, the tax planning can be some of the most interesting for us. It's like a puzzle that you're putting together where you're learning about these pieces. They're flying at you in December, right? With portfolio income. What does that look like? If you have a brokerage account, how is that impacting your overall tax structure? Do you have an opportunity to realize some capital gains at 0%? Have you retired early, and does that present an opportunity to do some Roth conversions? We did a episode on that. We have a YouTube presentation actually on that we walked through an actual Roth conversion on our channel. You can check out. So a lot of different scenarios. I probably made you think of a few there too, Mike, as I was going through them, right?
I was just going to say, I think you went through the list. I mean, I probably have a few more I could add, but I think the summary that Chad's list there is there are a lot of different things that we could help with, and don't be hesitant to ask. Worst case, we'll get back to you and tell us we're looking into it, or we'll tell you, here's maybe a resource that could help instead. But it can never be hurt to ask.
Yes. Yeah. Working hard at finding the best answers for you. If that's a referral source, somebody else to help you, or walking through a financial plan analysis on that question. Okay. Moving to our next question, our last question here that we get asked most is, who is going to be my primary point of contact?
Yeah. And this is always like, you always hear like, well, am I going to be working with you, or what's going to happen? Because it's the dreaded, you always worked with, sales organizations where Chad decided you work with Chad and he was great to work with. But then all of a sudden you agree to sign up, and then Chad's transferred to someone else, and all of a sudden you're not as comfortable with a new person. But We do work as a team. All clients have two advisors. And so, typically, Chad and I are both advisors. So we may be on your team or someone else, other team members as well. But so because we do take time off or vacation and things like that, we want to make sure that you're taken care of with any kind of requests that you have. And then also a staff member that can help with, day-to-day things as well. So really all clients have at least three team members. And we do have an internal system that tracks all of our communication, emails, phone calls, et cetera. So they should be up to speed of what's going on in your financial life. But the key thing there is you have a team in place. They're dedicated. They're focused. They're there to help kind of reassure you and making sure everything is okay.
Yeah. And in addition to those primary points of contact, you have things going on behind the scenes of analysis. Like right now, the tax planning. Again, we have accountants, right, that are looking over your tax picture in detail to give feedback to the advisors. You have access to an estate attorney potentially to do a review of your estate situation. Again, this is all for wealth management clients of Financial Symmetry, but it's important that we continue to think about ways that we can build out extra services that can have attention on specific areas in your life that could create opportunities or risks down the road. That's always the goal, is putting your interest first, as we mentioned, and as we bring it back full circle here. So as we're thinking about a progress principle here, again, this is an episode designed for people that either are looking for a second opinion or have never worked with an advisor. Add these 5 questions to your list for every conversation you're having with an advisor, because it's important to understand and set up the expectations for a long-term relationship so that it's working in the best way for you and you're focused on your life.
No, that's a great point. I mean, I think our approach is not something we decided last night. We've been in business over 20 years, right, and a lot of experience working with, over 600 individuals and families to what works best, and provide the best advice possible. So, keep that in mind if you are evaluating options or you're not sure you're doing a good job on your own. Working with a team may be a better fit than working, try on your own or working with an individual solely, just because you might not have that infrastructure and support in place to help you.
Yep. And we're lucky to be in the proximity we are, right? We work with people all across the country, but we are in the RTP area, Raleigh, Durham area of North Carolina. And we are positioned around a lot of universities. So we have a lot of good people that continue to join us, adding advisors as we speak. So to help you, and looking forward to hearing your questions, hearing calls, and having you ask us these questions. But if you've listened to this whole episode, then maybe you'll have more questions for us at that point. So as you may know, we have a lot of other podcasts that we have done now through the years, and YouTube videos. We're going to put an extra focus on that into the new year, building out some more YouTube videos with more detail. Mike has gone through some programs. Other advisors have gone through programs where they have added to their expertise in the last year. So we're excited to share some of that with you throughout 2022. And we wish you a very prosperous and happy new year.